After studying this module, you shall be able to know about international trade and documentary credit, know about the modes of payment in international trade, evaluate the different methods of trade financing, understand about the Export-Import Bank of India and export credit insurance. In addition to their other international activities, most of the multinational corporations are heavily involved in international trade. The financing of such working capital requires a large amount of money as well as financial services. It is therefore very important to have knowledge about institutions and documentary procedures that have evolved to facilitate the international movement of goods. International trade and documentary credit. International trade presents a spectrum of risks such as foreign exchange risk, credit risk and political risk. To succeed in today's global marketplace and to win against the foreign competitors, exporters must offer their customers attractive sales terms supported by the appropriate payment methods. Therefore, for developing countries wishing to promote exports, it becomes very essential to provide credit on deferred payments terms to the importers. The complexity of the international trade environment causes the uncertainty over the timing of payments between the exporter and the importer. Any sale is a gift for the exporter until the payment is received, because it is either most possible or very difficult to take possession of the goods supplied as the goods lies outside the country of the supplier. Therefore, exporters want to receive the payment as soon as possible, preferably as soon as an order is placed or before the goods are sent to the importer. Any payment is a donation to the importer until the goods are received. Therefore, importers wants to receive the goods as soon as possible, but to delay payments as long as possible, preferably as until after the goods are resold to generate enough income to pay the exporter. By extending credit until the importer has converted goods into cash, the exporter can finance the entire trade cycle, but they need financing to buy or manufacture the goods. On the other hand, by paying cash in advance, the importer can finance the entire trade cycle, but they need to finance their customer receivables. Therefore, a midway approach must be chosen carefully that minimizes the payment risk along with accommodating the needs of the buyer. There are various modes of payments in international trade that involves a combination of financing by the exporter, the importer, and the one or more financial intermediaries. The foreign trade documentation provides the exporters the assurance to get the export proceeds and the importers to get the shipment of the order. As the exporter and importers are located at distant places, there are uncertainties regarding the receipt of payment by the exporter and the receipt of goods by the importer according to the specifications. But the foreign trade documents such as letter of credit, draft, bill of exchange, etc. overcome these problems. Thus, the foreign trade documentation helps to reduce the non-completion risk. Foreign trade documentation becomes more important when the credit worthiness of the importer is not known. Before any export order is executed, the exporter and importer agree on the terms of transaction, which includes agreement on price of the goods, freight, insurance, shipment and the modes of payment. The 5 principal modes of payment are cash in advance, letter of credit, documentary collections, open account and consignment. During or before the negotiation, the exporter and the importer both should mutually decide on the modes of payment. Modes of payment in international trade. Ranked in terms of increasing risk to the exporter, the 5 principal means of payment in international trade are cash in advance, letter of credit, draft, consignment and open account. We will discuss each of them in detail now. Cash in advance. This is the most desirable mode of payment from the point of view of the exporter because payment is received before the ownership of the goods is transferred. This method provides greatest protection to the exporter and avoids their unnecessary tying up of funds. However, this is the least attractive option for the buyer because it creates unfavorable cash flows. This is the concern of the foreign buyer that the goods may not be sent if payment is made in advance. Thus, the exporters who insist on this method of payment as their sole manner of doing business may lose to competitors who offer more attractive payment terms. This method is commonly used where the buyer's credit is doubtful or where there is political instability in the importing country. In addition, when the goods are made to order or there is pre-booking of the goods, this mode of payment is usually demanded. It is demanded to finance production and to reduce marketing risk. Wire transfers and credit cards are the most commonly used option for cash in advance. With the advancement of the internet, escrow services are becoming another cash in advance option for small export transactions. The second is letter of credit. One of the most secure instruments to take payment available to the international trader is the letter of credit. A letter of credit is a commitment issued by a bank on behalf of the importer that the payment will be made to the exporter upon the presentation of the documents specified in the letter of credit. It is a financial contract between the issuing bank and the exporter, which is different from any commercial transaction. The buyer establishes credit and pays his or her bank to render this service. The letter of credit provides various advantages to the exporters, which are as follows. First, a letter of credit reduces credit risk of the exporter if the intermediary bank is of undoubted standing. Therefore, the exporter need to check only the credit reputation of the issuing bank. Second, generally the countries allow the local banks to honor the letter of credit. This reduces the risk to the exporters that the payment will be delayed or withheld due to the exchange controls or political acts. Third, since all the requirements for payments are clearly mentioned on the letter of credit, LC reduces all the uncertainties. Fourth, the risk of cancellation before shipment always lies with the specially ordered contracts. The letter of credit also protects the exporters against pre-shipment risk. Fifth, a letter of credit is useful when reliable credit information about foreign buyer is difficult to obtain, but the exporter is satisfied with the creditworthiness of the buyer's foreign bank. The letter of credit provides some advantages to the buyers as well as which are as follows. First, as the bank makes payment to the exporter only on presentation of certain documents, the importer is able to ascertain that the goods will actually ship on or before a certain date. An inspection certificate can also be demanded by the importer. Second, the bank bears all the responsibility to inspect all the required documents. Third, since the letter of credit is as good as cash in advance, the importer can demand better credit terms and prices. Fourth, this source of financing is cheaper than other sources of financing international trade. Fifth, no cash is required to be tied up by the importer if letter of credit is substituted in place of cash in advance. Sixth, for the importer, it is better to deposit its money with a bank than with the seller because it is very difficult to recover money from an outside seller than to recover it with the bank. Following are the documents that are required to be presented by the exporter to the bank before the payments of a letter of credit. First, commercial invoice of the goods exported. Second, banking arrangement details. Third, product supply details. Fourth, charges such as freight, insurance, etc. to be paid. Fifth, bill of lading. Sixth, certificates of compliance of government regulations. Seventh, consumer invoice. Eighth, certificate of origin. There are many variants of a letter of credit. These are, first, confirmed and unconfirmed letter of credit. When another bank's guarantee is added to the issuing bank guarantee, the initial letter of credit becomes a confirmed letter of credit. On the other hand, when a local bank does not add its name as a confirming bank, it becomes an unconfirmed letter of credit. A confirmed letter of credit is always an irrevocable letter of credit. Second is revocable and irrevocable letter of credit. When the original letter of credit can be cancelled or amended at any time without prior notice to the beneficiary, it is called revocable letter of credit. However, payment made prior to their amendments and cancellations remains valid in this case. On the other hand, an irrevocable letter of credit cannot be modified or cancelled without prior consent of the parties. Since a revocable letter of credit does not provide guarantee for the payments of export proceeds, the exporters prefer an irrevocable one. Third is clean and documentary letter of credit. To accompany the bills drawn under the letter of credit, when the documents of title to goods are not required, it is called clean letter of credit. On the other hand, when the documents are required, it is called documentary letter of credit. In case of clean letter of credit, the exporter sends the documents directly to the importer and does not retain control over the goods under transaction. A documentary letter of credit is normally used because it reduces the risk, whereas in case of clean letter of credit, the exporter may have to face the risk of default. Fourth, fixed and revolving letter of credit. In case of fixed letter of credit, the amount of bill to be drawn is limited. While in revolving letter of credit, the limit of the bill amount is renewed automatically after the amount of the bill is paid. Such letter of credit is popular where there is regular trading. The Indian laws prohibit the opening of revolving letter of credit against import of the goods into the country. Fifth, transferable and back-to-back letter of credit. Where the exporters has the right to transfer the letter of credit to a third party, it is called transferable letter of credit. This letter of credit is generally used in case where the exporter is simply intermediary procuring goods from producers and exporting them. A letter of credit can be transferred only if the transfer clause is written on it. Otherwise, there is a need to open another letter of credit in favor of the supplier. This ancillary letter of credit is known as back-to-back letter of credit or countervailing letter of credit. Next is draft or documentary collection or bills of exchange. Commonly used in international trade, bills of exchange is another mode of recovering the payment from the importer. It is an unconditional order in writing whereby the exporter entrusts the collection of the payment for a sale to its bank. This order is usually signed by the exporter and addressed to the importer or the importer's agent, ordering the importer to pay on demand or at fixed or determinable future date the amount specified on its face. By using this mode of payment, the exporter exercises a great control on his goods until the bill is paid and accepted by the overseas buyers. Bills of exchange also provide assurance to the importers as they do not have to pay or agree to pay until they receive delivery of the goods from the exporter. This mode of payment is cheaper as compared to the other documentary credits. Exporter's position is superior in this mode of payment as compared to the open account exporting. By negotiation, the bill of exchange can also be discounted. In this payment, banks do act as a facilitator, but in the event of non-payment, the documentary collection do not offer any verification process and provides only limited recourse. Thus, the following functions are provided by a documentary collection. First, in simple terms, the bill of exchange provides a written evidence of a financial obligation. Second, documentary collection enables both the exporter and the importers to reduce their cost of financing. And third, it provides a negotiable and unconditional instrument. A draft is a negotiable instrument and it should be written and signed by the drawer. Second, it incorporates a promise to pay a specified amount of money. Third, it can either be at sight or at specified time. And fourth, it must be payable to order or to the bearer. Next is consignment. In consignment, payment is sent to the exporter only after the goods have been sold by the foreign distributors to the end customers. Until the importer sold the goods to the ultimate customer, the title of the goods lies with the exporter. An international consignment transaction is based on the contractual agreement in which the foreign distributor receives, manages and sells the goods for the exporters who retain the title of the goods until they are sold. Normally, this arrangement is made with a related company like parent and subsidiary. Exporting on consignment is very risky as the exporter is not guaranteed any payment and its goods are in a foreign country in the hands of an independent distributor or agent. Exporting on consignment helps the exporter to become more competitive on the basis of better availability and faster delivery of goods. Selling goods on consignment basis also helps the exporters to reduce the direct cost of storing and managing inventories. Before exporting on consignment basis, the exporter must carefully analyze the credit risk involved and also the availability of foreign exchange in the importer's country. The key to success in exporting on consignment is to partner with a reputable and trustworthy foreign distributor or a third-party logistic provider. Appropriate insurance should be in place to cover the consigned goods in transit or in possession of the foreign distributor as well as to mitigate the risk of non-payment. Next is open account. An open account transaction is a sale where the goods are shipped and delivered before payment is due, which in international sales is typically 30, 60 or 90 days. Open account sales are made only to those foreign customers with whom the exporter has a long history of favorable business dealings. This is one of the most advantageous options to the importer in terms of cash flows and cost, but it is one of the highest risk option for an exporter. Due to the major increase in international trade, improvement in credit information about importers and greater familiarity with export in general, foreign buyers often press exporters for open account terms. Therefore, exporters who are reluctant to extend credit may lose a sale to their competitors. Greater flexibility, lower cost and fewer bank charges are the other advantages provided by this mode of payment. Exporters can offer competitive open account terms while substantially mitigating the risk of non-payment. When offering open account terms, the exporter can seek extra protection using export credit insurance. Methods of trade financing. In order to finance international trade, generally the firms along with some specialized instruments uses the same financial instrument as they use for the domestic trade. Banks plays a critical role in financing international trade on both sides of the transaction. Some of the more popular methods of international trades are as follows. First, accounts receivable financing. In case where the exporter has trust on the creditworthiness of the buyers, he will extend credit to the buyer without an assurance of payment from a bank. But if the exporter needs immediate funds and is not willing to wait for the payment, he may require financing from banks, which is referred to as accounts receivable financing. In this method of financing, the bank will provide loan to the exporter by securing the assignment of the account receivable. The bank will provide loan to the exporter based on its creditworthiness. The exporter is responsible for repaying the bank even if the buyer fails to pay to the exporter. The loan rate in international account receivable financing is higher than the domestic accounts receivable financing because the former involves the additional risks such as government restrictions and exchange controls. In order to reduce the additional risk of foreign receivable, exporters and banks often require export credit insurance before financing foreign receivables. Second is factoring. In this type of financing, the exporter sells the account receivables at a discount to the specialized firms either on non-recourse or recourse basis. Where the factor assumes all the credit, political and foreign exchange risk of the receivables, it is called recourse factoring, and where the factor has the option to give back receivables that are not collectible is called recourse factoring. Generally, the exporters takes the non-recourse factoring. Before purchasing the receivables, the factor himself assesses the creditworthiness of the foreign buyers. Usually, the factor purchases the receivables at a discount and the cost of factoring is also very high. Factoring provides several advantages to the exporter. Firstly, the exporter selling the non-recourse receivables does not have to worry about the creditworthiness of the buyer. Secondly, the exporters also avoids the administrative duties involved in maintaining and monitoring an account receivable accounting ledger. Finally, the exporter receives immediate payment by selling the accounts receivable to the factor, and this improves its cash flow. Generally, the factoring services are provided by the factoring subsidiaries of commercial banks, commercial finance companies, and other specialized finance houses. Generally, cross-border factoring is used to assess the creditworthiness of the foreign buyer. In cross-border factoring, the exporter factor contracts a correspondent factor in the importer's country to assess the creditworthiness of the buyer and handle the collection of the receivables. Third is discounting. The exporter has the facility to convert its trade draft into cash by means of discounting. This method of financing is generally used in case where the draft is not accepted by the bank. By placing the draft with the bank or other financial institutions, the exporter receives the face value of the draft less the interest and commission of the bank. The exporter may require paying lower rate of interest and commission if the draft is insured against both the commercial and political risk. The insuring agencies will reimburse the exporter or the institution having the draft if the losses covered by the insurer do occur. As a policy of export promotion, the discount rate for trade paper is lower than the interest rate on overdraft, bank loans, and other forms of local funding. Discounting may be with recourse or without recourse. In case of with course, if the importer fails to pay the bill, when due the bank has the facility to collect the amount from the exporter, whereas in case of without recourse discounting, the bank bears the collection risk. Fourth is banker's acceptance. Banker's acceptance is a time draft that is accepted by a bank. It is the obligation of the bank to pay the holder of the draft at maturity. In this form of financing, the exporter will receive fewer funds than if he had waited to receive the payment on time. This discount reflects the time value of the money. Bankers' acceptance encourages the exporters to penetrate in new foreign market as they need not to worry about the creditworthiness of the importer. With bankers' acceptance, the importer obtains greater access to the foreign markets as some of the exporters may be unwilling to accept the credit risk of the importer without bankers' acceptance. Fifth is forfeiting, that is medium-term financing. It is specialized technique to eliminate the risk in which the forfeiting firm purchases the financial obligation of the exporter. The exporter sells the notes without recourse to the forfeiting bank. Generally, the forfeit transactions are collateralized by a bank guarantee or letter of credit issued by the importer's bank. The forfeiting bank places a great deal of reliance on the bank guarantee, as obtaining importer's financial information is usually difficult. The importer's bank guarantee fostered the growth of the forfeit market. In some respects, forfeiting is similar to factoring. Sixth is long-term financing. The main difference between the medium-term financing and the long-term financing is that of the length of the time involved. The long-term credit is to be extended till 15 years. Generally, companies investing in infrastructure or heavy capital goods industry use this type of financing. This method of financing is more required by the companies of developed countries. In all the countries, specialized agencies are there that provide long-term credit to the exporters. Long-term credit can be provided through the buyer's credit and the supplier's credit. In case of supplier's credit, the suppliers takes the lead. By means of bills of exchange or promissory notes, the supplier offers credit to the buyer. These bills are repayable over a number of installments and they carry a fixed rate of interest. These bills of exchange are presented to the commercial banks that then pay to the suppliers. The banks also get guarantee from the export credit agency that the bank will be refunded between 90 to 95% of the notes in case the buyers not pays the payment or the interest amount. In case of buyer's credit, the supplier is not involved. There is a loan agreement between the commercial bank and the buyer. Because of this loan agreement, the supplier is paid. This form is most appropriate for the turnkey projects where the contractor is bidding on a lump sum basis. Buyer's credit is more desirable as compared to the seller's credit because of the flexible nature of the former. The next topic to discuss is the Export-Import Bank of India and the Export Credit Insurance. Exports have become a crucial area of every nation in order to achieve the objective of foreign trade policy. Therefore, banks and other financial institutions are coming up with different schemes to finance the exports. Established in 1982 under the Export-Import Bank of India Act of 1982, Exports-Import Bank of India is the premier export finance institution in India. In the promotion of cross-border trade and investment, Exim Bank plays a major role in partnering Indian industries, particularly small and medium enterprises. It is the apex body in respect of financing of foreign trade. Its role is quite comprehensive, beginning from financing and refinancing facilities to advisory and promotional activities. Some of the functions of Exim Banks of India are: first, under the Direct Financial Assistance Program, Exim Bank enables the exporters to extend term credit to the importer of Indian capital goods and manufacturers. Second, Exim Banks enables the Indian exporters to extend term credit for export of services under the Consultancy and Technology Services Program. Third, pre-shipment credit is also provided to the exporters. Fourth, financing for the acquisition of indigenous plant and machinery is provided to 100% export-oriented units and to the units that is in export processing zones. Fifth, Indian promoters can finance their equity under the Overseas Investment Finance Program. Sixth, term loans to finance the import of Indian capital goods is also provided by the overseas government agencies under the Lines of Credit Program. Seventh, Buyer's Credit Program enables the buyers to import capital goods from India. Eighth, Exim Banks provides term finance to Indian exporters of capital goods under the Refinance of Export Credit Program. Ninth, Exim Bank enables the banks to finance post-shipment credit under the program of export bill discounting. 10th, post-shipment credit is also provided to the small-scale industries under the small-scale export bill discounting program. 11th, Exim Bank provides assistance to exporters to develop markets in various countries under the export marketing program. 12th, credit is also provided by Exim Bank for upgradation and extension of production facilities of small and medium enterprises. Export credit insurance protects the exporter against the risk of non-payment by a foreign buyer. It gives the exporter conditional assurance that the payment will be made if the foreign buyer is unable to pay. Through export credit insurance, exporters can protect their foreign receivables against a variety of risks that could result in non-payment by foreign buyers. The various risks that could result in non-payment by foreign buyers can be commercial risks such as insolvency of the buyer, bankruptcy, slow payment, certain political risks such as war, terrorism, riots, revolution, and some risk related to currency inconvertibility, expropriation, and changes in export or import regulation. The basic objective of export credit insurance is to promote exports by protecting the domestic exporters against the risk of non-payment by the importers. ECI often helps in making the sales because having this insurance reduces the cost of borrowing from private institutions as the government agency is bearing the risk written in the insurance policy. As ECI minimizes the risk of non-payment, it encourages the exporters to offer competitive open account terms to the foreign buyer. Exporters can increase export sales, establish market share, and compete more vigorously in the global market as the risk of non-payment is reduced with the help of ECI. ECI does not bear any risk for which coverage is available through marine, fire, casualty, or other forms of insurance. Foreign Credit Insurance Association, that is FCIA, administers the Export Credit Insurance Program in USA. International trade presents a spectrum of risk, and to succeed in global marketplace, the exporters must offer their customers attractive sales terms. The international trade documentation provides the exporters the assurance to get the export proceeds and the importers to get the shipment of the order. Foreign trade documentation helps to reduce the non-completion risk. Cash in advance, letter of credit, draft, consignment, and open account are the various modes of payment in international trade. In cash in advance, the payment is received by the exporter before the ownership of the goods is transferred. Cash in advance is the most attractive mode of payment from the exporter's point of view, but the least attractive one from the importer's point of view. A letter of credit is a commitment issued by a bank on behalf of the importer that the payment will be made to the exporter upon the presentation of the document specified in the letter of credit. It provides a lot of advantages to both the importers as well as to the exporter. A draft is an unconditional order in writing whereby the exporter entrusts the collection of the payment for the sale to its bank. It is signed by the exporter and addressed to the importer, ordering the importer to pay on demand or at fixed future date the amount specified on its face. This mode of payment provides the exporter a greater degree of control. In consignment payment, the payment is sent to the exporter only after the goods have been sold by the foreign distributors to end customers. An open account transaction is a sale where the goods are shipped and delivered before the payment is due and is usually made only to those foreign customers with whom the exporter has a long history of favorable business dealings. There are various methods of financing international trade such as discounting, factoring, forfeiting, bankers' acceptance. All these methods helps in promoting international trade and to reduce the uncertainties attached to it. Exim Bank is the apex body in respect of financing of international trade. It provides loans, guarantees, bank insurance, and export credit insurance in international trade. Export credit insurance protects the exporters against the risk of non-payment by a foreign buyer. It gives the exporter conditional assurance that the payment will be made if the foreign buyer is unable to pay.